Friday night, y'all. Make sure everything is on. All right, folks, it's Friday night. Let me make sure everything technically is where it needs to be. I see everybody on Facebook is connected, making sure YouTube is connected too. There seems to be some sort of lag. Oh my God, the dreaded lag. Hoping everybody's well. It is Friday night. It is the 4th day in February. Y'all know what February is? Yes, the second month of the year. Absolutely. Absolutely. But before I continue, let me first welcome everybody to the show. This is your boy, Mo Delgado. I'm your host of this fine, wonderful show that we call the New Norm 2.0. It's where we bring you into the conversation. It's an internet-based talk show based about different hot topics. It's meant to inform you of different things that are happening all over the world, regionally, nationally, and of course, locally. So I'm your host, Mo Delgado, and this is how we do things. Black History Month. This is what Adrian wants to emphasize. That's the one factor that a lot of folks love to, I say, celebrate. But myself, I celebrated from the last day in February until the first day of February because every day is Black History Month. Every day we should honor Black history. So that's my personal feeling. So as we go, hopefully you're doing your part to make sure that not only are you informed of new facts in Black history, not just nationally here in the United States, but internationally, but in also hoping you can inform others of some Black history that you may not know is, or you may feel is not widely understood. One of the things that I love to emphasize about Black History Month, if it wasn't for my brother from Puerto Rico, Arturo Schomburg, the United States wouldn't be benefiting with so much Black history. He himself, with the help of his family, found millions of pieces of information and created his own library, which is celebrated through the New York library system right now, the Schomburg Center for Black Studies. If it wasn't for my man's desire to understand his personal roots and his existence and where it came from, when a teacher said there is no history, he saw it befitting to make sure that he found all the history possible, compiled it together. The New York library system chose to house it, host it, and promote it. So if you ever get a chance, go down there to, I think it's on MLK. go on into Harlem itself and go to the Schomburg Center for Black Studies. That's my little nitpick or little piece of information that you may not be well aware of in Black history. So let's honor all those that we have in history and make sure that we celebrate the legacy of their efforts by promoting the proper things that we need to promote and continue to create and build on their legacy. So moving forward, February has been a tempestuous month, it seems. We're going to talk a little bit about the news and some of the things that are really important to know, but just wanted to highlight on some factors that may not be celebrated or may not be aware. People may not be aware of the truths of it. Life has a tendency of overwhelming us to the point where we may not be informed of the different things. Hold up, wait. Pause. I forgot. We now have background music. Oh man, I'm about to put it on y'all. Let me make sure you get the right one. Let me make sure I'm getting the right background music. Is it playing, y'all? Anyway. If it's too spacey for y'all, let me know. But just a little background music to talk about the different things concerning the news. As of today, the situation happened in, make sure, Syria. The United States, the President of the United States is claiming victory over what appears to be a violent suicide by Abu Ibrahim al-Hashimi al-Karachi, who is alleged to be the new leader of ISIS. Seems to have killed himself and or committed suicide. However, the United States government, led by President Joe Biden, Uncle Joe is what we call him sometimes, has been going through the news rounds and basically claiming that U.S. Special Forces went in there and did the do. However, what has transpired also is claiming some innocent lives. So whatever the situation is, we have to be conscious that with every action, there seems to be an equal reaction. Let's not be a violent one, a deadly one, because whatever's taking place around the world, there's too often times where we're not given the full scope of information. We're not given the full, well-rounded understanding of what's actually transpiring, and we're just getting the news as it's told to us. And it's been proven how this news isn't always 100% correct, doesn't always have all the factual information to give us a better understanding so we can make our own decisions on it. But according to the state president issued a warning statement, this operation is a testament to America's reach and capability to take our terrorist threats, no matter where they try to hide, anywhere in the world. We will come after you and find you. This is Uncle Joe talking that big boy stuff. We also know in the background, you have Putin, which is the president, the most highest exalted position, to get exact number, prime minister of Russia, was recently making claims on other parts of what used to be the USSR, which is, remember the country? I don't know why I keep wanting to say Crimea. It's not Crimea. Can't ask you. In the background, the United States is also facing the potential threat of Russia moving forward on a nation that is not necessarily posing a threat worldwide, but was also having last minute information was popping up. Ukraine, forgive me, y'all, what I'm saying. Okay. It's anti-war movements in the Ukraine. Russia is making military movements or advancement towards Ukraine. And the United States is moving towards defending the Ukraine from its big cousin, big brother, used to be daddy, when it was part of the USSR, or at least it was part of the Soviet bloc, not necessarily part of the USSR, but it was part of the Soviet bloc. All the adjoining countries in that area were all either allies, friends, or part of the USSR. So, with all that's being taken place in Syria, and then the statement that the president has made, also suggesting to Russia that America won't back down. It's going to keep moving. Remember, we're talking about Joe Biden, who's been around for many decades. He's been part of this bully force that the United States has been all over the world. Him and other important officials have been sent over to other nations to say a few words to their prime ministers and leaders of the world to threaten them to make sure that they get in line and do what America suggests. So is this impeding on world peace? Is it promoting world peace? I don't know. But we have to pay attention to all fronts. Not only is Syria and the area around there being terrorized by these different factions, these different groups, but if you look at it from their perspectives all over the world, America may also be considered a terrorist. So let's do so. Let's be whatever we can be as good Americans, as good human beings, and pay attention to what's going on and make sure we side with what's right. It may not be right now, but let's do what's right, what's righteous. So as we move on, let's pay attention to it. The way things have always gone, there's always been a distraction involving some military action somewhere, hiding the truth of something else that's transpiring somewhere. Could it be the activity taking place in the peninsula outside of Korea? Is it some of the motions that are taking place in the Japanese harbor? There's a lot of activity taking place in South Africa. There's a lot in the Suez Canal. There's a lot of military action taking place all over the world that's involving a lot of military and paramilitary activities with different functions and groups that all seem to be connected. And there's still the allegation that the white supremacist group, formerly known as the SS and or Hitler's Third Reich, who transplanted themselves to Argentina and South America, are building momentum in South America, doing what they can do to build the next coming. So there's a lot of adversity in the world right now that I think we should stay very attentive to, because we don't know how one thing transpires and affects the other. So it's extremely important that we pay attention to things. In addition to, I don't know if you noticed, for those that have been paying attention, the first of the month seems to be a very critical time to a lot of students in America, those specifically in HBCUs, historically black colleges and universities. There's a network of universities who were created for the benefit of African American and black students to be able to have an education opportunity when there was no education opportunity available to them in regular traditional ways. HBCUs are all over the South, Midwest, and some in other portions of the United States. Was it 13? 19 HBCUs received bomb threats on Tuesday, the first of the month, the first day of Black History Month. There's allegations that suggest that because it's all HBCUs and on the first of the month of February, that this is racially motivated. Regardless of what our motivations are, it's a threat on many lives. And we have to play it serious. We have to make sure that we protect our students, because they'll be leading the world shortly after their graduation and their development as human beings. So wherever they transpire, all they go into, their impacts are inevitable. So let's protect them and protect all the innocent lives out here. Let's do what we can to protect them. This threat apparently came from the internet. Of course, if you know how the internet is, how things have been transpiring using this vehicle, we don't know where this threat could have come from. It could have been something internal. It could have been something extra coming from the nation, creating a lot of hysteria inside in a community that's already on edge because of the violence and crime had and experienced all over the nation, as well as from the hands of the justice system and or the police. So there's a lot of sensitivity taking place at this point in time when it comes to HBCUs and the safety that's being questioned at this time. So whatever we can, pay attention to that too. HBCUs near you could be potentially the next threat. So let's do whatever we can to protect these young students, these stellar stars that are coming into their own learning tool that they can, so they can add to the earth looks better and not a detriment to life. But these people are threatening the earth. Okay, so that's another factor. Another one that's extremely building some momentum at this point in time is the emerging reality that COVID-19, the numbers are suggesting that we're hitting that corner, that infamous corner where we can find some sort of comfort to say maybe we've gotten it. World Health Organization, the WHO, as of 2 days ago, reported that the United States is still the one nation in the world that has the highest amount of COVID cases and or COVID deaths. Think about that, because we are a first world nation. With all the technology and the finances that we have, all the information and media that we do have, how we're still falling behind other third world nations. Is it because of our own arrogance and want for liberty and always in need to rebel against these things that we think Big Brother are doing upon us? Are we just too big to fail? Are we just like tradition we've seen experience while we seem to get in our way as a nation, as a people? Not one group can claim more numbers than other groups. They seem to always go up and down like a roller coaster. However, the truth still remains that less and less people are being identified as contracting COVID-19, and its latest envisionment, or its latest show, which is the Omicron. Delta still exists, as we said in the last show. Delta is starting to pop up now in house pets, or animals that people seem to be around more, which is also farm animals. So the Omicron numbers they're not shooting up, however, they're still existing. There's still people being hospitalized. So whatever you can, do so. Today, I know I received the home-based COVID-19 test. There's a lot of discussion about this home-based COVID test because it apparently is the same type of vehicle being used for DNA testing. So I don't know what the end result could be. However, just pay attention. Do what we can to do to stop it from spreading any more than it has. Be attentive to your surroundings. Be very cognizant of your imprint on your life and the life of the people that you love and the lives of the people around you. What I mean, if you're sick, stay your ass home. If you're not sick and you want to go around other people, be conscious of its impacts and the impacts on other people. Not everyone is as hygienically responsible as you are. As you wash your hands and stay 6 feet away from one another, you don't know. You got nasty ass people like to put their hands in places they shouldn't be. Then touch you and hug you and roll up all over you, lick your ear, lick your eyebrows, whatever the situation is. You got nasty ass people. These nasty ass people have caused issues all throughout the world, different situations with COVID-19. Don't be a victim, and as sure as hell, don't be the vehicle. So whatever you can, pay attention, do what you can. Get vaccinated. Vaccination numbers are still being stifled. Americans don't believe in the vaccine. However, it's been proven from the tests that those who have been vaccinated shortly after them catching COVID-19 had a higher rate of defense versus the people who have never caught it and been vaccinated. Is it because your natural immune system gives you that ability to be able to defend against this man-made vehicle? And that's just my opinion. I think it's a man-made virus. Does it make it that you're safer in dealing with the world around you and COVID-19? I don't know. It could be. However, for those that survived it and got immune cells and been vaccinated, congratulations, good for you. I'm glad that you're protected against this ever-going, non-stop threat. It's a pain in the ass, and too many people have passed away from it. And whatever we can to protect them, let's do so. You changed the music, y'all. Forgive me because the music is big nasty. We move it over to something else a little bit more. This is called Feeding the Ducks. As y'all may have been paying attention, I use StreamYard to be my vehicle to communicate with others. So it's starting to build even more, giving everyone a little bit more accessibility to different tools. And we greatly appreciate it because it brings some color and some variations to our show. So in addition to, I don't know if y'all have paid attention to world news, but the Olympics, the Winter Olympics have started. As we know, because the Winter Olympics are taking place right now in China, because of COVID-19 and because of it allegedly spawning out of Wuhan, that athletes around the world have chosen to stay home. They won't be representing their nations in their respective courts. So it's a concern because ultimately the Olympics itself is a vehicle for financial opportunities for the nation that holds it, and in some cases for some athletes who participate. We talked about before how some nations pay their athletes for them to attend and focus on specifically on the race or the sport that they involve themselves in or training for. And in some, it's in basic, if they win gold medals, they get a stipend, they get some sort of benefit. There's a lot of money involved. So right now, China is trying both because a lot of nations who have been big, you said, they had big situations, big positions in these national races. That because a lot of these nations that are in are not participating, you're not seeing the best of the best. So, especially in the wintertime, a lot of these Balkan nations, a lot of these nations are basically snow-driven areas like you see in the Arctic Circle, those realms. You got skiing, cross-country skiing. That's extremely important to them. So if you have people in other nations that aren't participating, they're not getting the best of the best. So, it's egotistical type stuff. But either which way, we still have representation from America over in the U.S. Olympics as well as other nations. So if you enjoy the Olympics like I do, make sure you support it regardless of what. You know what the good thing about it is being able to watch it on TV. So it's not that much of a threat. However, some of y'all are nasty as hell can probably reach through the TV to get other people sick. But without continue, let's pause first and say, welcome to the show, my brother Adrian. How are you? Good evening.
What's up, Captain? How you doing tonight?
Hey, man, I guess riding the boat until it sails, bro. You know how it is?
Yeah, hey, it's a slow roll,
It's all good. As long as we get there, right?
yeah, I'm checking y'all chit-chatting.
Giving a little information here and there because I think people I guess we get so overwhelmed with the world and our own personal nucleus of different things that we don't pay attention to things around us.
Okay.
We really have to pay attention about some things. Some things are deep and we're not really, really, really looking at. Earlier on, I don't know if you had got a chance to pay attention when we were talking about in the news some of the crisis that we have in Syria, the supposed hit of Al-Qaeda's newest leader. I'm sorry, not Al-Qaeda, ISIS. ISIS's newest hit. And how Uncle Joe said, yep, we did it. But all reports suggesting on that side was suicide and some other people. So we don't know what the truth is.
Yeah, he committed suicide, according to the World News Report. Mm-hmm. He had one of those explosive packs and he detonated, blew everything up, including the kids and stuff, So it's one of those things, man.
Yep.
They prefer to die than to be captured. That's their philosophy. They don't want to do any time in jail, so they prefer to die, by their own will, rather than actually being, placed in prison and going through the system in the whole 9 yards. So,
and the other one was caught me off guard too, is because when you hear the boastful back-end speeches, the guys, he chose a cowardly path and didn't want to face justice. I'm like, dead is dead. So. Yeah. So which way? Dead is dead to me. I don't see why. I don't get it. But
they want to be like a martyr or something. You see what I'm saying? Like, oh yeah, we're gonna die for the cause.
Okay.
To each his reach.
Yeah.
To each his reach. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
It's like here goes a perfect example: the World Trade. When the plane actually hit the World Trade Center, a lot of people are like, okay, I'm gonna die, but a lot of people says you have a choice of jumping out the window or going down with all of these, with the building. So a lot of jokers just says, forget about it. I'll control my own destiny this way, and they jump from the building.
That was crazy. Speaking of that, I worked for a company that was stationed in World Trade Center. I was actually home when it transpired because I'd injured myself. I worked at a company there. So There's a few people or colleagues of mine who passed away from that. But I have my own personal feelings about some of the things over there. But we've seen different examples all over the world how people chose to at least take their death in their own hands. Classically,
Correct, exactly.
Classically, we've heard stories of how people who were enslaved being brought over here from Africa chose to put their lives at risk by jumping overboard so they would not have to live enslaved. They
Correct.
said they're going to rather die and become food for sharks and other predators that way than to be enslaved here in the fashion that slavery was taking place here. People take death in their own hands in different factions. The murderous doctor who was helping people, compassionate methods of committing suicide, he was famous for saying that he was trying to give people a compassionate way that they can choose when to live or die, than to fade off.
Mm-hmm.
So,
are you referring to Dr. Kevorkian?
Kevorkian, yes, Kevorkian.
See,
right.
Good history.
Yes, Kevorkian.
I remember the name.
So, I think historically in the world we've seen different examples how people choose to live and to choose how to die.
Correct.
And when it comes to war, it's been the craziest things when people will say, like, militarily speaking, the samurai was infamous at the moment they are kept captive and they lost. They committed this process called hirikiri, which is basically killing themselves in honoring of the legacy of their people, which is the ancestors before them to submit to say, I failed you, so I don't deserve to continue to live. So I will die from the same sword that was provided to me. That was a process, an honorable way of dying. We've seen different traditions where suicide and self-killing and mortification seems to be a part of the thing. We've heard about the Incas and the Mayans who chose for sacrifice, human sacrifice, where people chose to dive into fire pits and what have you, to say that they're going to sacrifice their own lives for the benefit of the people.
Exactly. You get
based on their fatalism. Right.
Yeah, it's no different from a lot of the spies, from different countries. They prefer to take a cyanide pill rather than to be captured.
Mm-hmm.
So at least they're not going to be able to, get the information from them.
Yeah. Or even in cults. Jim Jones was famous for being the head of a huge cult of people.
Yeah, I remember down in Guyana.
Right. Even though there was a large portion of people who were killed because they didn't know they were drinking a portion.
Yeah.
A lot of people committed suicide. Right.
It was Kool-Aid.
Right.
That's where they got that stuff, everybody's drinking the Kool-Aid. That's where that analogy comes from.
Right. See, there's something else we gotta be concerned about. I think about the other ones, I forget the ones who used to wear, they were wearing Nikes and purple clothing and were waiting for the spaceship. I forget the name of the group.
Oh, you talking the Moonies?
No, not the Moonies. That's the Asian guy from Korea, Moon.
Yeah.
That's the group who helped commit murder or tried to commit murder by having cyanide in the subways, the Moonies. But this one it was a group in California. It was a group of, I think, 20 people, and they were all basically committed suicide, saying that their spirits would be caught by the ship that was coming in. It was the wildest things, but that's just an example of history, how some individuals choose to commit suicide and or take the lives of themselves and others for honorable causes, as they say, honorable. Fuck out of here. I'm not doing that shit.
And an old saying goes, I love me too much to destroy me,
No. Mm-mm. If I'm gonna go out, I'm gonna go out because I have to defend my family. I have to defend myself in something. That's the only way I'm gonna go out, or naturally by health wise, because the creator, good father that we have, our creator, saying, "All right, you're done there. I need you up here. Come up here." I'm like, "All right, cool." That's the only way I'm doing. Not for this concept, and especially for the concept of patriotism. We've seen how this nation, unfortunately, has put people at harm's way and risk all over the planet to kill other people, and they've been treated less of human beings when they've returned back from this mission to defend them. So it's hard for me to ever believe that there's an equal respect there. So ain't with it, man.
Yeah,
So
but look at the situation that's going on, in with Russia.
That's a big concern.
That's a hotbed right by itself.
That's
It's
a
out
big
there,
concern. Yep.
big time.
That's a real big concern. That's one of the things I mentioned before. But the crazy stuff is that people aren't. You see what you see in the news if you're looking for. You know what I'm saying? If you're just looking at regular network news, it's always fabricated to certain sensitive ears. You know, you got to look more deeper into the internet, whatever kind of media you can. You find some details that you don't normally see. So you have to be pay attention. Like we're seeing against Russia. There's always the Cold War, and there's always the threat, and there's always commies against us. In America, it's always us versus them. But you just saw the situation in Syria. So, is the disposition in Syria the United States way of showing to Russia, back up, back off, or you're going to face some other wrath that you won't be able to see?
But see, the thing about it is everything right now that's going on with Russia and the whole entire army is like unreal. They have 100,000 troops, on the border,
Yeah, they do.
waiting to invade, Ukraine. And there's a reason behind doing that because Russia does not want Ukraine to actually join, the UN. And that's the situation that's happening there. They're like, no, we don't want them to join the UN whatsoever.
And for those that don't know, United Nations is a pact, an organization that's created for nations to help defend one another against military advancements. But it's also an economic pact together behind it, like the one set up with the oh goodness, I forgot that. I froze.
What, NAFTA?
No, not North American Free Trade
yeah, that's NAFTA.
Not that one. The oil companies, they're called APEC. OPEC nations, the OPEC agreement. There's different groups all over the world, and the UN is one that has a lot of, I guess, influence. They're stationed here in New York City, which is odd. That area of the building of the UN is not considered U.S. property. It's the only area in the world outside of Cyprus.
It's like a freaking island on a nation.
Right.
It's like
it's
an island.
Manhattan Island, but it's an island within itself.
Exactly. That's what it is. Yep.
It governs itself.
That's like a sacred soil. Right.
The president of the UN is the sole governing body of that entire property.
Yep.
That area. And it's supposed to be an equal territory to all nations that are involved. All the pacts, everything is there. That's the home base. The only other area in the planet is their secondary base, which is on Cyprus, which is near the Greek in the Mediterranean. So it's crazy how these games are being played. But Russia's concern is Ukraine joining in means that Ukraine will also have all of these other big boys involved.
Yep.
And they can potentially take over Russia if wanted to, because he's surrounded by UN representation.
Correct.
He's surrounded. So if I'm not mistaken, there's a lot more discussion about potential threat than real threat right now. So, as average Americans look at Ukraine like, what is there to have for Russia? And he's looking at it from the chess aspect. If I have the Ukraine, then UN can't have it. And then we'll work piece by piece to gain Herzegovina, Bosnia, all those areas that were part of the USSR at one point in time, making it the Russia that at one time was. So it's not about the potential threat now; it's the one that's long term. So it's crazy, man. You got people all over
like Taiwan and China. That's another one also. With Taiwan and China, that's another one on the flip side. China saying that Taiwan belongs to them. Taiwan is like, no, we don't belong to you guys. And that's another turmoil situation.
Yeah, Hong Kong was also involved with that, the long-term treaty that they had to give out. There's a lot of colonization all around the world that under contract ended, and then it went up to being independent. So, and then, like you said, Hong Kong, Taiwan are two wealthy, thriving, self-governing bodies that if the world had a chance to own it, any one of these big bullies on the planet, including America, would love to own it. Because as Adrian has said before, Hong Kong or Taiwan is actually probably the home base to a lot of the technology dealing with cellular phones.
They're salivating.
Exactly. So you have salivating. Yep. So you have not the China's already beyond 5G. They're at 10G technology, but it's also because of the access that they've had through Taiwan, partnerships that they have with Taiwan, Hong Kong, Samsung, Huawei, which is China's,
correct,
whatever, I think that's how you pronounce it. So it's just it gives them a technological boost if they own that big boy right
They
there.
want it very bad. That's the reason
Mhm.
why China is actually backing Russia and telling, saying, hey, Ukraine does belong to Russia, and that's going back and forth,
Mhm.
because obviously Russia and China is both communist nations,
Yep.
and
Yep.
outside of those two, you're looking at Cuba and Venezuela.
Yep. And then North Korea. Right.
Yeah, and North Korea.
Yeah. But as you see right now, I think the only one that's sitting in between that are looking at everything and saying, I don't know where to turn is India. India is trying to play neutral. India is the one nation that nobody seems to be scared of that should be scared of. They're the only ones that thrive with nuclear weapons, neutron bombs, all this stuff. They thrive. They build it consistently and they don't have an issue using it if need be. That's the one nation that everyone's sleeping on. And they're so easily accessible to all the other nations that people are concerned of. Pakistan, Bangladesh, they're all in the realms of that way. You hit it to the other direction, you got North Korea, South Korea. So it's sitting right there. The apex or the lowest end of India can hit South Africa easily. It can different nations, the Suez Canal, Qatar, all UAE, all those areas, it can be hit easily through some of the weaponry they have. They can shoot shit over the other side of the globe and Australia's gone. So I don't know. But it's a concern to be had. And these are people who are home based to technology.
Yeah,
Technology, the tech
major.
gods. They're not fighting for the opportunity to have land. They want the digital realm. They want the kingdom that you can't see. So we'll see. But that's a big
Interesting.
concern. I know there's a
Interesting.
lot of discussion in South Korea right now because North Korea was trying to encroach on South Korea a while ago. And I think what they're doing is they're trying to instigate some sort of battle, some sort of issue in that region of the world because everyone else seems to fall in place. So they want some activities to really build into it. America knows the sensitivity. That's why they're encroaching in Finland, Norway, the Arctic realm in that area because they have military abilities to strike long distance from that area. In addition to, we already need the Japanese fleet is aligned with America and their ability to use ICBMs all over the place. We have South Korea, we have Australia, of course, have been assisting us looking that way. We still have a pretty good relationship with India. So that region of the world, the only thing they have is China and Russia, the two largest bodies of land
Yeah.
with the largest amount of military wherewithal in the planet are together.
Yeah, you see, the UN, a lot of the UN was actually created right after World War II, when all
Hmm.
of these nations said, based on what happened with Germany and the whole 9 yards, they're like, we'll make sure that this stuff will never ever happen again. So then, when you have Russia and you have China, two of the largest nations around,
Hmm.
then you have to put all of the other countries together into on one side, which makes up the UN.
Yep. Well, the UN is probably the one reason or the one vehicle behind
It's
why
keeping
the
them at bay.
USSR dismantled.
Yeah, it's keeping those guys at bay. That's the
Yep.
only thing that Russia is worried about is the United Nations. And the
Yep.
same thing with China. They're worried about the UN.
Yep. They're the one. They're the main reason why the USSR dismantled. So if they dismantle, yes, at NATO the way it was being proposed at one point in time. Matter of fact, under Donald Trump was a vehicle behind it, saying there's no need for a NATO, and he wanted to expel NATO
Yeah,
out of or the United Nations out of New York. I said, this guy has some balls on him.
yeah, major. But I
It's
was
crazy.
watching something on TV, earlier today about Mike Pence, so he threw Donald Trump under the bus, big time.
Yeah,
And
well,
says, yeah, this guy wanted to actually, have me to overturn the election.
yeah,
So Pence threw him under the bus today, big major. That's going to be on all of those late night talk shows.
it was according, you know what I mean? Because Mike Pence had appeared to be more of a patriot than some people had believed it. And I know he was at odds. You can see it. He was at odds a lot under Trump. Some of the things that he was part of his nature. You know what I mean? Very patriotic, Americana type deal. He felt a certain type of way, even though some of the stuff he just didn't understand because it was idiotic, but it was some meaning to him, some
And that's
rhyme to
what
what
Donald
reason.
Trump chose him, because Donald Trump knew that he could use that man at will. That's the reason why everybody said, yeah, choose Pence, to be the VP, because that
Hmm.
guy will do anything that you want him to do.
Hmm.
But at the end of the day, he turned his back on him.
Hmm. Hell yeah. Them talking about jump. What? Jump. That's crazy. But you see how you right now, no matter what, no matter how much we dislike it, Trump stays relevant, and they keep him in the news. Now it's all these different people who are being addressed or talked to, who are not coming ahead to talk to the press or investigations based on the elections and or the January 6th revolt. All the stuff right there, all that stuff is still pending. And I'm like, I still say the same thing. If Democrats had more strength, more power, more veracity, all this shit would have been done and handled in a quick way. But not.
Big time. Big time.
But
Big
not.
time.
If it was the other way around and it was a Republican, or if it was the other way around and the people who are in power was Republicans and it was a Democrat making noise the way it was Donald Trump, you'd have saw all kinds of axes flying at him quickly. It would have been a Supreme Court handled. It would have been national news. Everything would have been.
Look at the Supreme Court situation.
Yeah,
you know, under Donald Trump, he chose 2 judges for the Supreme Court with no problem.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Biden have a hard time just picking one.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
And now the potential of them having to pick again, we're still saying the same thing. Stack that sucker, man.
Exactly. You know what you're waiting for, your mama? Come on, give me a break.
Exactly. I mean, no matter what, we already have, what is it? Not 13.
9.
9, right?
9.
9 justices. That's supposed to.
So they're trying to make it to 13. You know, come on, wait, yeah, you know, and the Democrats, the sand in the hourglass is running out because by the time you know it hits the midterm, a lot of these suckers are not going to be up there anymore.
And historically speaking, the number 13 has a lot of patriotic emphasis behind it. 13 states, the original, the Federalist bloc that went against and created the United States as it is now, the Union, all that stuff around 13. Why not having 13? Because the Supreme Court, this is the one thing, the court itself has the choice and liberty to pick and choose what it wants to oversee, what it wants to, and when it wants to oversee.
Mm-hmm.
They have a lot of liberty. But again, I still think one of the problems is it's a lifelong position.
Yeah.
Like these judges can become until they pass away. I'm like, it's not good. No one should have that type of length of authority. No one.
But that's the only one though. That's the only one in the 3 branches of government that actually have a lifetime position
That we know of. Right.
Exactly. You know, I mean, Donald Trump tried to have it his way. You know, he tried to be a king, but you know, the king was overthrown.
Because we have tenures that are legal, legal limitations. No one should be able to do so. So it makes sense if no one can govern, and one president can't rule for more than 8 years. One person shouldn't be in the Supreme Court a lifetime. They should cap it. 10, 15 years, cap. Next one. Gives a chance for new, fresh minds, opportunities for certain things to be discussed more frequently, because it's always the same cycle. The few things that always seem to be addressed is the Civil Rights Bill, Roe v. Wade. 2 things that always seem to end up somewhere in the scope of the Supreme Court.
Always.
Yep. So I'm hoping that they can finally get their ass together and put 13, because I think that we need more eyes on justice.
Yes, exactly.
We don't seem to be seeing it the way we want to. And when you saw Justice Sotomayor basically step aside and said the Supreme Court should be ashamed for their disposition dealing with the Texas referendums when it came to the Roe v. Wade concept there, and how they just let it wide open where anyone could be sued, financially liable for a decision being made by a person to do what they do for their own body, that type of deal. It's sad. But we'll see how it increases.
Yeah.
We'll see how it goes. So what's new in the week, man? How was your week been?
Yeah, not bad. Can't complain. Like I always say, any day above ground is a good day, so make it a good one, you know?
Understood. I know you're probably happy to see the snow going right now.
Oh, aren't we all? There's a lot of rain, you know what I'm saying? But up north, those guys are getting, their rain is turned into ice.
Yeah,
so, you know, you're going to have a lot of people ice skating on the road.
And I was trying to emphasize to people, you really had to pay attention. The one source that I get a lot of my weather information is a guy named Bryant Hall. Did a wonderful job in newscasting. He was live for 20 hours at a time, each snowstorm, each major dilemma. He was live with people on the road in the areas when we had that major tornado, this band of tornadoes in the Sun Belt. He had the people who were chasing tornadoes. Um, he was telecasting from their vans what they were seeing, the damage they were seeing firsthand. Same situation with the levees down in Louisiana, Mississippi. He had people there. Same thing when it came to newscasts. Um, I was actually going to broadcast live from here so he can broadcast to the world with Atlantic City because he kept asking, what about Atlantic City? I wonder how Atlantic City is about the amount of snow. The most we saw, I think, here, we saw some snow drifts that were up to 3 feet. Snow drifts, not a consistent, but snow drifts 3 feet. However, the way it was, it's a crazy thing. Where you were at, were the municipal offices, did they handle the snow the way, is it a regular thing?
Yeah, they're predicted around 12 to 18 inches of
Hmm.
snow. But I mean, it is what it is. And like I always say, that's why they call it the weather, because they don't give a damn whether you like it or not. So it is what it is.
Yeah. I was trying to tell people, even from last week, to pay attention. Like, no matter what conditions are, there's certain things that the plows on these trucks can't do is to remove the amount of snow that was falling for the duration of time that it was falling. We'd have to have like army loads. We're talking about hundreds of vehicles back and forth, all over the place on every street for it to get to the point where people felt comfortable. They were going to complain, complain, complain. However, I was privy to some information that suggests that the municipality that I'm proud of living in and represented for so long, some of the workers were unfairly compensated. They weren't compensated for the last time they were out working endlessly, extensively beyond their regular hours. They weren't paid their overtime pay. They didn't get the support pay that they were promised to do so when they went out in the snow and did what they had to do. And so a lot of that discussion was still being played out in this past snowstorm. And it may have been the reason, partially the reason why some of the teams that are usually available were not available this time. It was too much of a dilemma. And so it's really heartbreaking because I'll tell you what, when it comes to the public works workers in Atlantic City, I've seen firsthand how these guys at times put their lives in jeopardy. When we had the Superstorm Sandy, these brothers were
Mhm.
out there taking away so much debris that the very next day it looked like nothing happened in Atlantic City. When I know
Wow.
specifically, I saw the videos. We were watching, I was out there in my truck recording what you would see, all the different teams out there working to take debris out, helping to push the water away. Same thing in the snow. They were out there tirelessly trying to do what they can do. When they were brining, they brined the roads. When they were trying to remove the snow, they were doing so. But it's hard to do right when so many people want the liberty to get in the way. One of the
Right.
problems I saw is people want to park on the streets, but yet expect the streets to be plowed of snow, so much so that the snow wouldn't be in the way of the parked cars. I'm like, where's the snow going to go? We don't have
Yeah.
actual snow removal. We have snow plows. Some areas are, I'm not going to say, I guess, privileged enough to have the machinery where they can actually take the snow out of the area. But it takes specific equipment that it's not readily available to a lot of cities, especially one under economic conditions like ours, where you see them. They have a major plow with some sort of chain.
Yeah, it's like a
It's a whole
conveyor belt
machine.
or something. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a whole machine. It's fly as hell when it happens because the minute you see that coming, your street is going to be free of snow shortly once they get in there. But you don't get to see that often. And, that's the kind of equipment that everyone should have. It's just, I guess people don't think about needing it until you need it. That's the truth. Even the expressway didn't. An expressway, that's a major thoroughfare from Atlantic City to Pleasantville, for those that may be watching and may not be aware of, the E-Way Expressway is usually well taken care of. They have the South Jersey Transit Authority who have massive amounts of resources and trucks, and they usually take care of their roads really well. What the hell happened this year?
Get out. They didn't handle their business.
They weren't this snow was really troublesome this year. It seemed like they weren't out there. So I don't know if it was a concerted effort on the entire state or it was just so much so soon that no one could do anything about it. But those roads that you would think were taken care of, you saw cars off the road everywhere, left and right everywhere, from the
Wow.
smallest one. And we're not just talking about people who are reckless driving over speeds. It's just, unfortunately, these cars sometimes are not made to be able to traverse through snow or sleet. And so, they hydroplane, and unfortunately, you can't, unless you're trained or comfortable in being able to maneuver your vehicle, you're going to fall wherever it falls. And there's been a lot of ditches up and down the expressway. I'm like, it's really troublesome, man, because you never know. Smallest little gesture, movement, and nervousness that you make can impact many people behind you. Got to be very, very, very cautious about your actions when you're driving. You may be in a rush to get somewhere, but let's hope that you can get somewhere and don't be fooled by making the wrong choice, and you won't ever get there.
Point.
That's my public service announcement for the day.
Point well made.
Yeah, but it's the weather's something, and it's still promoting the potential of sometime this week another storm. There's lots of storms that are coming up. Like now, there's a sheet of snow running from Texas all the way up to Maine, and there's so much activity taking place. Although we won't see it here on the East Coast because it dissipate by the time it gets to Jersey. But it's still that much weather trickles down. And if folks have been paying attention, the East Coast itself, there's a natural barrier called the Appalachian Mountains. Those mountains themselves are actually the tributaries where a lot of the water that we use on the East Coast come from. The aquifers come from that area as water comes down, and it causes a lot of influx into the water that we need. However, if we have too much of a flow, we have slides, we have structural damages that take place from flooding. We saw a couple years ago how a lot of bridges got wiped out in rural communities because of flooding. Those potentials still there. This last infrastructure bill that was going on, that American government agreed on, it still haven't been launched into the areas necessary to make sure we're comfortable. We still have bridges that need to get repaired. We still have roads that need to get
like the bridge that just collapsed this week, you remember?
Yeah.
The bridge that collapsed in Pennsylvania.
Yeah. So those things still have to take place. So imagine all this weather coming this way and we're still not ready. Man, we got to be very careful. The most comfortable community can be the most dangerous and active communities at any time. At any time. I mean, we just saw Tonga, the island of Tonga, all of a sudden get engulfed from a volcano. And they're going to go through all kinds of drastic transitions going on. Have to be concerned about that. There's some additional water issues, I think, in Arizona. There's all the water we get on this side. Some parts of Arizona wish they had it.
Yeah, I know.
I think it was just within the last 14 to 15 days, Death Valley saw the lowest temperatures it's seen in over 100 years in the daytime. Death Valley usually see 108, 109 regular. They said they saw temperatures there in the 60s, Death Valley. I was like, ooh, that's kind of low for Death Valley.
Yeah, well, like I said, that's one thing you can't control is the weather. Man can control a lot of stuff, but he can never be able to control the weather. I mean, no matter how much he's tried, but it's just not in the cards.
Yeah, you ever heard of HARP? You ever heard of HARP?
The what?
HARP, HAARP. It's the project that's located in Alaska, rural Alaska, that is alleged to have the ability to affect the atmosphere for weather, to create earthquakes in areas. They said HARP may have been the reason why there was so much activity in IT. HARP is alleged to be some of the reasons why there was such a large influx of bad weather in Japan that created the earthquakes that affected their atomic, I forget the name of the area, Fukushima, that affected that area that caused the leak. HARP is something to look into, but I just saw a documentary just earlier about technology and weather, and they had mentioned HARP. I said, wow, they're really starting to give you details about HARP. It's crazy. They say HARP has the ability to affect using sodium dichloride or something like this to create rain in other areas, other things in areas that need it. Spikes up the energy protons in the atmosphere to dry up areas that say too much snow and weather. I don't know, but you never know how things are. Never know what's true and what isn't.
Exactly, and that's my perspective right there by itself.
Yeah, but damn.
Everything is relevant, from the earthquakes to the volcanoes erupting. Everything is relevant in life.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's crazy. Yo, so let me ask you a question. Did you see recently what happened with Whoopi Goldberg?
Yep, yes, I did.
What do you think? What do you think? Um,
I think she was trying to prove a point, but it's just that it did not, her translation of the point that she was trying to prove didn't come across very well.
I'm I'm not one
And
that's very supportive of Whoopi as a person, but what she symbolizes is extremely important to all of us. And what she said, I'm not totally against what she said because she didn't, in my opinion, she didn't demean anything further than what it was already existing. Like she didn't make the villains less villainous. She didn't make the reality that it was wrong less wrong. She was just trying to identify that it was humans against humans. And then the major portion
the
of that,
communication, the translation of
yeah,
her wordage and her verbiage just didn't cut the mustard.
yeah,
That's all there is to it. Happens.
yeah. There was I just saw it was a feedback in CNN. I think it's a readout show. Julia Reed, I think that's her name. The sister used to be part of government, who's now one of the broadcasts. She had a show, and she had a Jewish um, journalist there who spoke on behalf of the perspective that they were trying to say. He hit it so on point to me. It made sense even more so because he says European Americans have this concept of race that's different from American, the Western Americans' perspective of race, where to them they see the Jewish as being discussed in traditionally as a race of people. That's how they categorize to point out one group versus another. On this side of the planet, a Western philosophies of race identifies the actual groupings of the people that are identified by significant differences or areas specific to that region. So one sees it one way, the other side sees it other. When you have a group, and I said this to my son, the one thing that we have to pay attention is that she works for a media company that's televised on national
Bingo.
TV. This media company, more than likely, is run and owned by a Jewish corporation or Jewish
Yep.
group,
That's
and
the
they're
bottom
very
line.
sensitive.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah, and they're very sensitive to anything dealing with that. And with
Correct.
all that being said, I truly understand that because we shouldn't deny the reality of the Holocaust.
The
Shouldn't deny
Holocaust.
it.
Correct.
No way in hell. But let's not exclude that there's other Holocausts that deserve equal attention around the world. The African Holocaust surpassed that, but you don't see that same type of emphasis, the same type of energy. We talked about that before. Matter of fact, on The View, I think there was a discussion before how in certain instances where inhumane injustices have transpired, America has been in position to help by justifying and or paying back these individuals. When Japanese Americans were encamped, they were rounded up and encamped. All of a sudden, they had reparations, right? Israel, to this day, every year, for decades, get a certain amount of money from the U.S. government and allied aid. And this is in scope of this whole situation that transpired from the Holocaust. So America is paying them for existing. Other groups of people are still waiting for theirs. African Americans, of course, due to slavery, are due as reparations. Native Americans, certain areas are getting little segments of reparations, certain ones, not everyone. We're still seeing those injustices. So it's just we're sensitive. For those who are in power, are going to be sensitive for those things that are sensitive to them. And you just got to accept it for what
Let
it
me
is.
tell you something. If Whoopi Goldberg was on the own channel and she would have said those exact words, attempting to prove a point, she would not have been suspended.
On OWN?
Oh, correct, on own channel, which is the
Oprah?
Oprah Winfrey Network.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, see,
Yeah.
I don't think the same outcome. I don't think the same outcome.
No, the outcome would have been different. She would not have been suspended. But because she's, have that morning slot, with the rest of the other people on there, and everybody started firing off once she was trying to prove that point.
Yeah.
The whole damn point went to hell. I know
And
what you're trying to say, but the delivering of the message is what did not come across, clear and concise.
you know what I also what I didn't like, that it really it rubbed me the wrong way, how the president of the corporation, the news anchor Kim, some whatever her name is, she's the one who chose to suspend her.
But
She,
at the same time, Whoopi's got enough money where she doesn't really need a view anymore.
I
There comes a point and a time in your life when you have to move on.
when
Some
enough is
people
enough.
just
Like, do you have enough? Yeah,
some people believe in sticking and staying. You know what I'm saying? But at time there comes a point, you know, look at Tom Brady. He's like, look, I got enough rings already. I don't have to prove a damn thing. It's time for me to move on and do something else. You know what I'm saying? Look at Michael Jordan. He's like, look, I've played baseball, I've played basketball, I've golf. I don't have to prove a damn thing to anybody else. And it comes a point in your life when at a high point, leave on a high point. Don't wait for a low note.
yeah,
And that's what a lot of these guys do. When they suspended her, she should come back and says, okay, you got that one off, but here's my resignation. That's it. You have enough money to keep it moving, and you can go to the own channel. You can actually get involved with Tyler Perry because he has a studio after your damn name. So go make some movies now.
she she could actually start her own show, based off of another network, and
Yeah,
it would
of
make
course.
sense to
That's what
me
I'm saying. Yeah,
because to me it sounds like she backed down off of a statement that wasn't intended to be harmful. It
correct.
was cautious to be sensitive,
She,
but it's someone else's opinion that it wasn't sensitive enough. And that's what I think I have the problem with, because someone else is trying to determine to what degree you should grovel. That's the problem I seem to be having with that, because she was immediately the next day, she's like, well, I didn't mean to, and so on. So I said, yo, who are you serving to? Who's actually your master?
but you see, the master's the one. He who has the goal makes the rules, and that's exactly what happened there.
Right. But it
Apparently,
just
she's
shows
getting the
that
paycheck from the network, and they're like, "Hey, we have the goal. We pay you the goal every single week. So at the bottom line, we got your contract, so we can suspend you. But at the same time, stand up for what you believe in, or else you'll fall for
exactly,
anything. That's just the bottom
exactly.
line.
That's what I'm disappointed that she didn't stand up for herself.
Yeah, I saw it because she was on one of the late night talk shows saying, "Hey,
Compare.
forget it. Don't send me any more letters. I know exactly what you're talking about." But this is if it stirred up that much, this is the point in your time. It says, "Well, you know something? I've had a good run. You know what I'm saying, and I'm going to keep it moving. So I'm out of here. And that's it."
She, in my opinion, she allowed herself to fit that whole scope of who's really the boss.
Correct.
She made it known that she wasn't the boss of her away in the way she projects, and she's like, we're all
Hmm.
employees here. And I'm like, truth be told, you have already succeeded to levels that a lot of people wish they could have been. You
Correct.
have earned and made enough money to live at least 2 or 3 lifestyles. Why do you still depend on massa to throw little crumbs to your table and remind you who's the master?
But
That's where people should have stood up.
let me parallel something also, because you have Ben Simmons is going against Shaq. That's another thing also, because Shaq is up there saying, "Yo, man, you messing up our money. We've been doing this for a long time and we got everything straight, but you messing up our money, Ben." You know what I'm saying? And that's Shaq's point of view. We've been at this game for a long time. I made room for Garnett, and Garnett made room for this person, and Jordan made room for this person, and Kobe. You know what I'm saying? He's like, yeah, But it comes to a point when you guys have all this money, you can start up your own damn freaking league. You can start up your own damn league and stop groveling and trying to depend, just like the guy who's saying, "Oh, we don't have enough black coaches in the NFL." But then you got enough black football players in the NFL to start up their own damn league.
Flores, right. Well, I mean, again, that's part of a greater scale. We are fighting to fit servitude, fighting to stay to fit in.
In a circle.
We're fighting we're larger than the circle itself, but we're fighting to stay
Yeah,
significantly in the circle.
correct.
Absolutely true. And that still blows my mind.
Yeah,
You're complaining about the rules they set for their team or for their league. Don't complain about it. Step out of the shit and create your own.
that exactly.
You
Because
have enough
just like
economic
the last
opportunity.
guy who actually, I can't remember his name, when he actually took his uniform off and he threw it into the stands, and
Mhm.
everybody's like, "Oh yeah, he's having a meltdown." He's like, "No, I didn't have a meltdown. It's the shit that they
Oh,
was trying
Jones.
to feed me that I wasn't going along with, and that's the reason why I quit right there on the spot."
Antonio Jones.
Exactly.
Yeah. And they try to make this.
Everybody's like, yeah, they think I'm having a breakdown. He's like, I didn't have the breakdown. It's just that the way they were treating me. I didn't like it, so I actually rebelled, and that's how I actually, proved my point.
And you know what? That's a good point, a good segue discussion right there, because I think sometimes we're too easy to demean people for standing up for themselves, no matter what situation.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We're too easy because it don't fit our comfort zones. Antonio Jones, or Antonio Brown. He's not here to help me. That brother has ability that proves he's worthy of playing in that league, if not anywhere that football's played. It's how he responds to the personal or interpersonal relationships that he has is the problem. And I'm like, take that shit out of the quotient. Take that shit out of the formula. And if you're paying him to play, get out of his way.
Yeah.
Get out of his way. Get the conditions that he has a problem with out of his way and let him play. But Ben Simmons, I'm still trying to figure out what the hell is actually wrong. He's making it hard on a lot of people, but he deserves, if he has a valid point, he has every right in the world to defend himself and act the way he needs to, because ultimately he's his own man. The fact that he's got a contract, it makes it tough on everybody else. But people got to understand that when you stand up for your own, you stand on your own. Sometimes you'll be alone to do so, and they'll look at you in a certain type of way. But hopefully, if you're standing on the right side of justice, what you're doing is setting precedent. So it makes it easier for anybody else behind you to be able to stand for things that they believe in. So I still don't know what it is with Ben Simmons, but I was never a Ben Simmons fan in the beginning.
Because both of them are going at it in a meeting. Like, I'm not going to tell you exactly what he said, because I'm not going to stoop that low, But all I have to say is, he's messing up our money, I'm like, come on, Shaq, he got a lot of money, already. What is he messing up? Because you're as far as playing basketball, you're not going back to playing basketball because all of the stuff that you have already out there, all of the investments. So what money is he really messing up? I don't understand it, because all the boys who have the contracts already, they're going to keep having those contracts. He's not going to be depending on Ben Simmons and the way he acts. That's going to be him personally.
But Ben Simmons set precedent, though. He's the first rookie that they gave opportunity to send and have a signing bonus for him to stay with the company, with the team, and chose not to play after the fact. So that puts a strain on anybody else.
But as I was saying also,
getting the money
aren't created equal. There it is.
Mm-hmm.
All men are not created equal.
Well, we know that, but we're talking about, remember this, from the scope of things, if you look at it, what it is, they're paying for their physical ability. This is a Columbine that equates slavery at one point in time, where our slaves were put up on stage to be able to produce, and we're going to bid for those bodies to be able to produce. It's the same concept. It's just at a larger scale, and we call it sports. The problems that we have in between is that we have the people who are being sold have a greater voice. They have a right to speak now, which they should have been standing up to speak for one another and themselves long time ago.
Eons ago.
Because they made many a slave owner wealthy. Many. Jim Jones, one of the most racially biased individuals on the planet, who owns Dallas Cowboys, who's egregious with his tenacity towards this, I'm the boss, I am the one who owns you, you do what I say or get fired type of Donald Trump-esque nonsense.
But like it says, a lot of these NFL players, they have bank. Mm-hmm. They have some serious money. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but the bank, it banks and shows it. And I seen that discussion, and all I kept thinking was to say, he likes to pick his fights. He's petty as hell to be as big as he is too. Sometimes he picks these stupid ass fights. You'd be like, why? Why, Shaq? He's coming hard on some of the big players just because he can in this way, or he's not a real man this way. Here we go. A privileged ass person. You had no power and you have no choice to be as big as your ass was. You just used it for your best opportunity. And all of a sudden now you are the earmark.
The thing about this, because Shaq is big and he plays good, but you want me to tell you something? So was Darryl Dawkins. Darryl Dawkins was bad as hell. You remember Darryl Dawkins? This guy broke a lot of backboards until after a while, they're like, yo, the next time you come out of your paycheck. You know what I'm saying?
He was raw power. Shaq played great for what he was. but it's only because he was as big as he was. It's not because of his abilities, because he can't shoot worth a shit.
Hell no. He can't even throw a piece of paper into the trash can that's right next to him.
Could he play now under the same circumstances? Hell no, because you have some 7-footers right now shooting the three, playing like they point guards, and will body his ass in a minute.
Look at Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant is a bad dude, man. I'm telling you, I call him like the snake. He can get through there and he can shoot those jump shots when it's ready.
Any man that's 7 foot tall and got 7'10" wingspan shooting away shit.
He's a bird, you know what I'm saying?
Although he got alopecia and a fucked up hairline, my man is an amazing player. Amazing player. But you got a lot of big boys. Like my son gives me a lot of the players report. Like I didn't know about some of the young players. Like you had Porzingis, who came in New York. Amazing guy, 7'3", I think. Plays like he's a point guard. Doesn't play like a big guy because he don't know how to. He's still lightweight. But then you had people like Bobo. He's another one that's above 7 foot tall, can shoot and play like a point guard. They have ability. Since the game has changed from being from big guy ball to small guy and everybody shooting threes, things have changed. But then you got some massive guys like Zion Williams, who got some weight on him, muscling people around and still have the ability. You know, these are the big boys.
The players back in the day was bad, like I mentioned. You know, when you're looking at like Darryl Dawkins and all these guys playing. I mean, the game was fun as hell to watch, man. I'm telling you.
I loved it, man.
You know
talking about Bill Lambie and Robert Parrish. It was bloodfest.
Man, I went back in the day with Kevin Garnett when you be watching him play the whole 9 yards, man.
KG was above the rim. He was.
You know what I'm saying?
Killer.
Yeah, Scottie Pippen running with Michael Jordan and all these different guys. Larry Bird up inside of there. I mean, these guys were really, they were ballers, man. They were serious ballers.
Oh, I loved it. I told my son, I said, they're a bunch of cowards these days. This ain't the same basketball like we were.
Nah, they just like a weaker version.
They wouldn't have matched. They would not be able to manage the type of. Some players could, but not these sensitive ass.
Exactly.
LeBron would never have gotten as far as he is playing under the conditions before.
No,
he would have never. They would have ate his ass up. With all that whining and crying he does all the time, he would have had to excel, becoming even more superhuman. Or he would have not become anything and just be another added could have been.
But look at some of the short guys like Muggsy Bogues. You know what I'm saying? Those dudes were bad as hell.
He was under 6 foot, dunking on people, had heart,
and he just slammed freaking dunk.
Yeah,
look at the damn thing.
Muggsy Bogues, and you had what's my man from Atlanta? He was even shorter.
Exactly. You know, because Muggsy, I think they call him Sputnik.
Spud
Webb, exactly. Exactly. Those are the boys that actually showed some domination, man. I'm telling you.
They had heart.
And those guys were short. They weren't tall dudes.
They were hard. They had played hard, and they were banging with all the big guys. Like you went in, they were not going on the outside shooting from the outside. They're taking it to the rim. And
exactly. They'll drive it through on you, man. I'm telling you.
I loved it. That's when everybody played with a lot more heart, man.
Yeah.
I think one of my favorite memories is watching. I was a Knicks fan, always been a Knicks fan, right? When the Knicks played against Chicago, and John Starks went up on a dunk, and he dunked it on Scottie Pippen, Michael Jordan, and I think it was Horace Grant at the time. All three of the big boys and Bosh, and dunked it on them with a left hand. It was wonderful. It was a wonderful thing because it shows that.
That was a good one. What about when Michael Jordan was getting ready to slam dunk with the right hand? Then he switched it over to the left.
Over the left hand.
Exactly. You know,
he showed
it up in midair. You know what I'm saying? And then he came back, everybody says, "What the hell?" That was one of the baddest moves that I've ever seen in my entire life watching, basketball.
He showed airtime because he was so high in the air.
Yeah,
he changed his mind. He said,
he was able to switch it over and still put it up inside of their, around those guys. Everybody, that's what you call hang time. That's what they call it back in the day.
He definitely had ability. That's no question. Some of these young boys are showing that type of promise, man. We just saw that same type of move with Ja Morant the other night. Whoever they were playing, he went up like he was about to dunk it, took it down, rocked it, and then came back up with a layup with left hand. They were like, "Wow!" What I said, "Yeah, I've seen that move before." Yeah, but it just shows once you get up there and you're able to time and you have good hand-eye coordination, you make adjustments and you can do that.
Yeah, because like it says, when Jordan did that, the whole freaking there was pandemonium. Everybody went freaking crazy because like did you just see sorry what the hell this guy just did?
But you know what? Speaking about Jordan, it shows you the caliber person he was when he was playing versus now. Like when he was playing, he was arrogant, but he was an amazing ball player. But the most beautiful thing I loved about him is that he never spoke ill about anyone else off the court. He talked about them being good people, good players. They're very good players. You know, we wish them well. What you would want of a traditional basketball player. On the court, you can hear him talk shit. You ain't nothing. You ain't shit. You know, watch me. I'm gonna get you. I'm gonna own you. That type of, because that was the type of player he was.
Correct.
But off the court, he was honorable about.
Yeah, because even when he was on the court, you know, and he's being guarded by who was it, Kobe? You know, he's like, "Come on, son, you think you can guard me?"
that was one of the biggest.
No, look at this, all right. You know,
Kobe or Allen Iverson, both of the time that either one of them, it was beautiful because you saw matching of superhumans. Like Allen Iverson was like amazing. Oh God. Allen Iverson was amazing in his ability. Jack Xavier, but Kobe Bryant was another one. Even that, Kobe Bryant was just coming into because Kobe was he was just a rookie.
Yeah, he was
coming into his own.
Yeah. Yeah.
She just called me. It was kind of cool the way it was. It just I love that face off, like the icon and the future icon. You know,
because Jordan used to mess with him. You know what I'm saying? He used to mess with his head. You know, but at the end of the day, you know, Kobe after Jordan left, Kobe's like, well, this game is mine now.
All the time. And you know what's crazy? I still remember, like, I love seeing the interviews that you hear when people talk about the one-on-ones here and there. But you have some major one-on-ones here and there that's still never been scoped or talked about. Michael Jordan was probably the one attraction everybody wanted to get. I love the fact that before you had Dennis Rodman, before he was in Chicago, he was the one threat that Michael Jordan did not want to play. Because he knew when he played for the Detroit Pistons, he was not going to score. He was scoring less than 10 points a game because of the way Rodman played. He was ferocious with his. Ferocious. And then when he became part of the team, I was like, oh, shit. He took out his biggest threat in the league at that time, stopping him. I mean, it's like Lance, what's my man's name from the Pacers right now? He's the one guy that the super players don't want to play against because not only is he getting your head, he annoys the shit out you. He's an amazing defensive player. And he just came back to the league.
And even when you look at, the Blazers back then, with Clive Drexler, when that guy starts running, man, I'm telling you, catching him was like trying to catch a play. And I'm telling you, the guy had a hell of a stride on him.
Yeah, them long steps or something.
Yeah, those long steps was very hard. I'm telling you.
The glide was no joke. It was like him on one side and Dr. J flying on the other side. That's
no,
what basketball.
Those were some really good matchups back in the day, no doubt.
Yeah, there were some good teams, man. That's why I say honestly, back then I loved the New York Knicks, but I was also a Sixers fan. Because I can tell you up and down the roster and all that stuff, and there's certain teams that were great teams. But back then you had so many great players and great teams.
Oh yeah.
Celtics was they were iconic. LA Lakers back then, I mean, come on. You had George Gervin, you had Michael Cooper. You had a lot of people that were on that side that were just, you unquestionably some of the best players in history. And then you had the up and coming Chicago Bulls.
Yeah.
Miami Heat didn't really become Miami Heat until LeBron got there. But you had certain teams that were just amazing. Detroit Pistons, the bad boy Detroit detail. Come on, man. They made sure the minute you came to play them, you're leaving bruised up and bleeding. That was part of the game, the attraction. Like, who's going to get cut up now? Who's going to end up in a fight now? I was like, it was part of the show. That's why I said, watching basketball now.
Yeah, but until LeBron got to Miami. You remember, he was in Cleveland before he got down to Miami.
Yeah.
So because Miami had their own stuff going on down there. I can remember the guy that actually retired from Miami. Gabrielle Union's husband.
D-Wade.
D-Wade, exactly. Because that guy played his heart out, man. He played coming up with Jordan and those guys.
He's still, to me, one of the best all-around basketball players in history. And at that time when he was playing, to me, was the most important player on the team, because not only was an amazing threat as a point guard, he was going to score on you, whether he had to shoot or dunk on you.
Yeah, he did not matter how tall you were or how short. The freaking guy had heart, and that's one thing I gave him. He has a lot of damn heart.
I love Dwayne Wade.
But that's the competitiveness, man.
To me, he was more important than LeBron was, because he ran the squad. He was more important to me.
Yep.
He ran the squad, the strengths and everything. He wasn't going to let the team fall to one. If somebody needed to have the clutch shot, he was hitting that clutch shot. When he had to take a hit, he was going to take the hit and make sure somebody else scored. I said it was one of the type of things, man. You don't that caliber player.
He had a lot of heart, and that's one thing I gave it to him, man, because it would not scare him for him to drive through there. And if you've been in the sports for a long period of time, you got to have heart when you're playing sports. I know personally. You know what I'm saying? So it's just one of those things. I love the competitiveness of it. It just drives me. And even when you finish sports, you move on to business, because that's another challenge by itself. That's why a lot of those guys go from sports to having their own companies and running their own businesses and stuff, because it's the competitiveness that flows through your body.
Yeah, it's a trip, but their mentality, that need for competition, although it trickles over into business, sometimes that also escalates, because one of the problems that had developed is Michael Jordan and his Jordan brand. After he created Jordan sneakers, and he was still playing at the time. When Nike had Jordan sneakers that were Nikes, and he was still playing at the time. They didn't see the scope of it until he was ready to retire. When he finally retired, it became an amazing, huge thing. But one of the questions was, with so much money coming out of the poor communities, black communities, Latin, brown communities, all over, that are reported to be marketed for their sneakers, and so much, he wasn't going back into those communities. He wasn't, and he was famous to say, I ain't telling them to buy my sneakers. He would tell you in a minute.
Yeah.
I don't give a fuck who you are. My money's green. All that stuff don't matter. He was really arrogant about stuff, so he had to go on. So it was good to see how new age basketball players like LeBron, like I said, when he's playing, he's the most whiniest basketball player. He really gets on my nerves. I can't stand him the way he plays. Outside of basketball, he's an icon to me. An amazing human being. Some of the wonderful things that he does.
Individual, man.
Exactly. Some of the things that he's done are without measure wonderful. Blessings to many, many people, and I love what he does.
You ever check out this one show? It's called The Wall. Have you ever seen that show?
Mm-hmm.
Where they have like the bouncing ball. They actually find people who've donated a lot of money, or not a lot of money, but donated a lot of time to the community. But at times they run into certain types of hardship.
Yeah.
So they would actually pick this particular individual to come onto the show. It's called The Wall. The money in that program comes from LeBron.
Dwayne Wade is the host.
Was that? No, not that one.
The Wall? No, that's not The Wall.
No, this one is called The Wall, right? And they have a bouncing ball, and it goes all the way down, and you could actually win $1 million or whatever the case may be, or you double up or you triple up.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
So yeah, he backs that with his money.
Yeah, but there is a show.
It's a really good show.
There is a show, and I think it's on. If it's not Paramount, it's on Apple. It's a show. D Wade is the host, and it's called The Wall.
I saw that one also. I've seen. I know which one you're talking about, but both of them are different.
Or The Cube. I think it's The Cube, not The Wall. Yeah, but LeBron has this new production company called Bron. It's all over the place. He's done wonderful things, just like Will Smith has done with his production company. LeBron has gone off and done a lot. You see major movies, and he's part of the major movie thing. So they're doing a lot. Their financial wherewithal, their understanding, and their allegiances and partnerships they built with financial developers here and there, brilliant. I don't think their children or their children's children will ever need anything, and what they do with their money, blessing to people, man. I love the vision of the school he helped create, the Promise School. Nearly 99% of the schools people that go to school have already been accepted to colleges earlier on. Their full tuition paid for college and the whole nine. We're talking about generations, at least 6 cycles of kids, generations on the waiting list to get into the school because of successes guaranteed through them. That's just one. I mean, it was amazing how his sister stood up as being the president of the organization and said to the majority of people, he says, when you realize that children who cannot read, children who are at the 5th grade level, who don't read at a 5th grade level, already have a jail cell imprinted with them in mind because they cannot match their reading skills. He says, when she made that, and I think it was at a TED Talk or a national, it was a conference, and they were talking about the promised school and the need for it. She says, when we realized that the children in 5th grade who are not reading at the 5th grade reading level, how someone somewhere has already developed a jail cell for them, we had to do something about it. Said that right there is the mentality that people need to keep in mind. If you want to save a life, you have to invest, not just dollars, time and effort, and then the spirit behind it, and put it to work, because that's what they're doing, and it's wonderful. It's wonderful.
Definitely.
I love seeing when I see these young millionaires putting their money where to help the communities, not just building a basketball court. You know what I mean? You saw people like Snoop Dogg being head of his football league in Compton. You have you have the guy in Miami who was part of 2 Live Crew, who started his own football league there. Who's helping kids. Yeah, right. Uncle Luke started his own football league there, who created a whole feeding system to get them to schools and paid their tuition to get into schools to play football. Great systems. But not only that, it's the additional stuff where people are paying into programs so they can learn. Denzel Washington paying for Chadwick Boseman, a summer program that launched him into the opportunities of him being so great in acting. So he paid a kid a chance for a kid to go in to get additional training through a summer.
You got to pay it forward, man. You have to pay forward, Yeah.
So that's why I'm holding on to the concept. We want everyone to be blessed, but work equally to be a blessing to others.
Yeah, like I said, you have to pay it forward. I noticed that I put up a post this week about helping people get rid of debt. I noticed that you reposted it also, because I ran into a few individuals and they're like, "Yo, Adrian, give me a call." You know what I'm saying? And they're like, I need to talk to you. This is the time of year to to get your ducks lined up in a row. That's what it's about. Closed mouth don't get fed. If you open up your mouth and says, "Hey, look, I have all of these things that I need to get resolved and stuff," we can help you out. That's what it's about.
And you never know. And this has been the contour of what we've been doing since the beginning. If there's something that we know of knowledge-wise, we'll share it with people. We want to make sure that they can prosper. So, like I said, I'm a testament to your well-wishing and your blessing to many, many people. And I always say, man, your position in heaven, I think, is already restored or implanted that way. But you're still going to keep doing what you do because that's who you are, how you built.
Yeah, because it's my nature. Like when all of this snow fell, man, I was shoveling snow for like so many people. I think I dug out like 9 cars. A lot of people, my neighbors and stuff, this one of my neighbors next door, he came outside and he has just this little broom and trying to brush off the snow off of his truck. I'm like, you're not going to get it that way. You're going to be here until the snow's going to melt and you still be using that little brush, So I says, let me, get my shovel and the whole 9 yards and say, I'll dig you out, because he has a pacemaker. So we don't need to have him laying down in the snow with a heart attack. You know what I'm saying? Because he was winded just by picking up one shovel of snow. I says, move on my way, and I'm going to help you out,
That's a major cause. There's been reports that suggest always during snowstorms, one of the most riskiest things you can do is go through shoveling. So people the process of being able to do so without causing harm, stuff people don't think about, bending at the knees, making sure that you're at a certain amount of level, the angle that you do so, the breathing, all that stuff takes in place. You just don't, everybody just wants to get the finished end result no matter how you get there. At the end, you're dropping dead right on the spot. Yeah, you accomplished quite a lot. You have to be very careful.
So I was helping all these bad boys dig their way out of all of this snow, man. And get it out of the way, create a walking path for people, the whole 9 yards. That's what it's about. It's a community. It's not individuals by yourself. You're a part of a community. You're part of a brotherhood, and that's what it's about.
Indeed. That's why I give a shout out and a special thank you to my neighbor Mary Jefferson and her grandson. Her grandson, when we first seen snow, um, she was out there and told him go out there and make sure that everyone's taken care of. He shoveled out basically the community, man. He did it all on his own. I really appreciate
Get
it.
out.
So,
Nice.
but when I found out the next day that he did, I was like, wow, really great gratitude. Thank you so much. But that's how we are. We do as community. We always so look out for one another, take care of each other, make sure everything's okay.
And that's what it's about. Correct.
Ultimately, the smallest sacrifice can go a long way. Doesn't mean put yourself out there and at risk and end up needing, some cardiac treatment and shit because you had to get your car out. Nah, in some situations, it's best that you don't go anywhere. If you got a lot of snow out there and you have to come out there, man, make that phone call and says, I'm sorry, this weather is keeping me home. That I can't avoid it. I can't go anywhere. It's not my fault. I'm sorry.
Yeah, because there was so much snow in the cars, I had to use a freaking, a shovel to take all of the snow for a lot of these, the cars.
Yeah. And then in Jersey, it's illegal to drive with snow on top of your vehicle. We saw,
Exactly.
we saw a lot of situations where people are driving and you're driving in front of in back of a car who's loaded with snow, and all of a sudden this big drift of snow hitting you, causing you to swerve and you causing an accident. So
Correct.
that's a big concern too, because some people can't reach over top of their vehicle. Some people just don't give a damn. As long as they can
Yeah,
see through the window, they're fine. I'm like, nah, man.
exactly. That's the ticket by itself.
Hmm.
Another one that's going to be a lot of people tinting the front windshield.
Oh man, that drives me insane, man. To me, it's no logical reason why you need to have all your damn windows tinted. Windows tinting to a certain extent, it's okay, you know.
Correct.
But they in the front, that makes no damn
You're tinting the front
no.
windshield. Now, I say to you, you spend all of that money for them to tint the front windshield, but your car is going to have to be inspected. And when you go through the inspection station, the first thing they're going to look is windows tinted. You're not allowed to have it tinted. So you're going to either take it off, and they're going to fail you right on the spot right there because the front windshield is, tinted.
Mhm.
Some people like, well, I have a bill, uh, note from my doctor saying that the sun is in my eyes and I have an eye problem. And, come on. How far can that go? Because you're going to get a ticket, because you fail inspection because you have the front windshield. Then you have to go back and get them to take it off. So you pay to have it put on. Now you have to pay to get it taken off.
Anyone who's driving a vehicle with tinted windows that way obviously is hiding something inside. They don't want anyone to see themselves or anything they're doing inside. So you basically are bringing attention to yourself.
How could you drive around at night? Because even I have tinted windows on the side, and even when I'm turning the corner, you can't really see the person if they decide to walk across the street.
Even with tinted windows, um, not only at nighttime, but sometimes in inclement weather, when it's dark colored this way and that way, even the color of the tint can sometimes impede your vision. You're not going to be able to
Right.
see it. It doesn't make sense to me. That's all point blank. I mean, there's some window protection that you can use to help you from shine or from excessive, bright lights and so on and so forth. It can assist and it's helpful safety wise. And in some instances, help to eliminate, like in Florida, they allow it, Florida and California, because
Mhm.
of the intensity of the heat. They're saying to help the atmosphere inside the vehicle for human beings, they don't get burns, strokes, and what have you. People who can't afford air conditioning, it gives them opportunity to be protected. Okay, it's understood. But the front, come on, man. There's no
Yeah,
reason
the
why.
front windshield. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, I'm always looking at like, yo, if I see somebody get pulled over, yo, sorry you got pulled over, but dumbass, you should have knew better.
Front windshield, they're gonna get you sooner or later. They're gonna get you.
Hmm. And in no way in hell do you need to have limo. And they don't just get regular tint windows. It's limo dark. I'm like, what kind of shit is
Yeah,
that?
because
You
this
see
one car,
peeking a little bit under the
you
window.
can't even see anybody driving it. It looks like the car is driving its freaking self at night.
You got There's no vision disadvantage that's going to require you that much tint. Nothing. And if that's the case, maybe you don't need a license. You need to sit your ass home, take Uber or a taxi, something, a driver, because you sure as hell are becoming. You're impeding on the next person's life and their ability to be able to traverse around in safety. and safety. You know, you're that's it's a pain in the ass, man. That's just one of a few things that pisses me off about some arrogant ass drivers these days. You know, another one that gets on my nerves, right? You notice how the headlights are blinking now differently? There's a different technology for tail lights.
Or the tail lights, correct. Now I see them like double and triple blinking when you press on the brake.
And the intensity of the color and stuff like that.
Correct.
That to an older driver looks like you may have faulty, faulty wiring.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but that's intended that way.
When I first saw it, that's what I thought also.
Yep. And you have high-end vehicles that have the technology to show intensity, but the bulbs that are illuminated stay illuminated. It's just the next one gets brighter and brighter. Like in the high-end vehicles, you see that. Not these jokers these days. It's just the blinking light fluttering. I'm like,
if you're driving in the brake, at night, your eye starts bugging out because like, what's the matter with this light?
You're not seeing that it's a vehicle. You don't know from a distance if there's some issues that you really need to take care of. So it's just certain things that happen, and I know car people love to have that type of ability to express themselves. And if you want to do that in a car show, by all means, go out there and go all out.
Knock yourself out.
But on the fucking road, nah. Maybe you need to just leave it for whatever is allowed in a car show is not to be driven. Leave that in the car show, not on the road, because I don't need to see all kinds of helicopter lights and super systems, and I don't have to all that, man, because that can impede vision and safety in other people. And I'm not just a man anymore; it's just the reality of it. You see a big ass, you see a vehicle that has 20-inch subwoofers in the back, monster 40s in the trunk, blasting some sounds so damn loud where not only reverberates in their vehicle, it reverberates in your vehicle.
I know.
It shakes you around this way and that way, and that's tragic. You have cops.
You can be listening to some nice music from the 70s, and some joker comes up, and is banging, like somebody's trying to break into your car, to tell you the truth, with all that sound.
And I'm like, you can't hear anything with all that loud ass music. All you hear, that's it, because your ears already blocked out. Correct. Your brain is already no longer functioning. You have ear damage. You have your ocular senses are gone. Everything, oral sound, everything gone. You're deaf. So now you're playing it like crazy to make everybody else impacted. That makes no sense to me. I said this on a long time, man. I used to be into sound and beautiful things, but I like the quality of sound. Some of it can be loud, but not to the point that these folks do. Come on.
Yeah, because some of it is like all bass. That's all bass.
That's it. That low end can knock your brain to the left. That ain't good. Anytime you sit there and then you turn the radio and you see people's hair just go frantically, man, you're in dangerous area. That's too many vibrations too close to your head. You can damage something. It may be cool to you, but you can end up being your death.
Yeah, because some of these bad boys, their speakers are like, I'm like, all you hear is nothing but bass. You don't hear any voice. You just hear the booming of it.
No clarity. I like a good system where it's clarity. You can tell like a concert, like a vehicle that can be able to have a concert
right there. You have to hear everything up inside of that.
Everything. The highs, the tweaks, the little. Somebody who's an audiophile knows how to work it. Not these jokers these days. These guys just have bass. That's it. Big ass subwoofers and lights. Come on, man.
Sometimes you see some of the worst types. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, these hot rods. Then all of them want to sound super fast, and ain't fast at all. Throw the assholes, and they buy these windpipes, and makes them sound fast, but they're slow as hell. I'm like, I don't want to be a vehicle that sounds fast. Give me a quiet one that's fast as hell. I'm good with that. Something that's quiet.
But
you can't hear me coming.
I love the quality of the sound. If you have like a really nice Bose system, like what I have inside my ride, you can hear every single thing and make it sound like if you're at a concert. You know what I'm saying? That's what you want to hear.
I had the last super system that I was able to put in. I had a Blaupunk head unit, and I had Alpine. I'm a Blaupunk head unit. I had an Alpine amp, and I had some. I forget the name of the speakers, but I had sequencer, I had emulsifier, all that stuff. Sound was beautiful. Quality was on. All I listened to was jazz because the clarity was so wonderful that all I wanted to listen to was jazz music. I had I had Art Blakely in the background. Yeah, Thelonious Monk in the background because you hear the clarity. You can hear the wind, the rattling in the horns.
Yeah, nice.
It was cool sound, beautiful sound. That was the best system. I never played it so loud, but it was loud enough that somebody in the next car was like, "Oh, that sounds good." It was like really clear. I was so proud of it. Then I had a car accident.
It happens to the best of us. Trust me, it happens to the best of us.
Yeah. Now I'm just happy to get my system so I can listen to the car while I'm driving. Which reminds me, I got to get my stuff fixed. I told you that I have an issue.
Yeah, what's the deal with that?
Oh my God, it's because I can't necessarily find somebody who's willing to work on it. Going to the dealership, they're gonna rob you like crazy for it.
Oh hell yeah!
And then the specialty places like car toys and all that stuff, they ain't gonna make it easy for you also.
No, because where do you think the car dealerships take their cars when they have problems with it? Car toys. They take the car toys and one-stop car audio.
Yep. So I'm gonna try to find it because all it and the part itself, it's an amp. So it's the whole link system. I don't know why GM thought to have all this linked up the way it is, but it's a problem. And it's all because the drainage in the vehicle from the roof rack, where you have water drainage that's supposed to run off the vehicle, it runs and drains off into the vehicle, goes and follows the chassis of the vehicle onto the point where the wiring is. So water gets into the wiring, the electrical wiring, and there's a short. And the amp blew out on one side because I can tell it's the amp because you can hear it trying to cycle and connect. You can hear the head unit trying to connect with it, and it goes through a cycle of trying to connect. So obviously, and because there's power in the head unit, I know it's on the other side. It's not the fuse box because I got the fuse box on one side, and then the amp, which is a small amp. It's not even a big one. It's a small integrated amp. It's a real small. It's just that they don't make that amp for that vehicle new anymore. You have a lot of replacement parts that you can find on eBay or refurbished this way, but that whole system was integrated and they separated different for now new vehicles. So it's a pain in the ass. I'm like, I wish they would have just recalled it and give me a whole system. Because it's basically the same problem I had with every one of my L format vehicles. I had the Chevy Traverse, and before I had a Chevy Traverse, I had the Saturn Outlook. Love the vehicle, especially the Saturn. Saturn was wonderful. That was the bomb vehicle. Loved it.
So the water's actually shorting out the amp is basically what's happening.
Right, so I have to find an amp. I got to try to order an amp so I can replace it. It's just the way it's positioned. I'm a big guy. I have to remove the driver's side seat to have access to it. Because I can get under, but my arms and everything trying to get in, it's a small, tight ass space.
Get out.
Yeah, but if I was to remove the seat, it probably gave me more space in there. But according to all reports, it just says once you replace that, clear out the wiring, make sure everything is still locked in, spray it with whatever the spray is. Yeah, or is it that or something else?
No, there's electrical spray also that you can use for electrical. Yeah.
Put the connectors back in and bam, no problem. I'm like, I need that so it doesn't drain my battery.
Because it runs down, like you said, down the chassis, and it probably runs up underneath where the seat is on the driver's side or the passenger side.
It comes in from the door, then it gets into the head chassis, which is behind the head unit.
Okay, on the door, which side? Passenger
behind the dash, on the driver's side.
Okay.
So it goes in from the door over the steering wheel. That's where the drainage is supposed to go into the front engine cabin where the engine is. But some of the water follows down through that same chain and goes through the wiring that end up where the head unit is.
Wow.
So it's a design flaw, which the correction for that is adding a piece of plastic or rubber that dangles over the wire, so if water comes down, it never gets a chance to.
Yeah, because with water follows the least path of resistance.
Right.
So
by putting a shield of rubber shield over top of that, water doesn't get a chance to get onto the wiring and take the path of the wiring. It's funny because you take the couplers off when it rains, you'll see it's water inside the coupler. So it's just a bad design flaw, and they're not willing to recall it. So I got to replace that piece.
Yeah, I guess because the age of the vehicle.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's not that old. It's 2014, but it's something that happens to vehicles more often than it should. It's just, I don't know. But anyway, something I got to fix. Maybe tomorrow I'll get lucky and find a spot that has one.
Yeah,
And
but if you have water getting inside the couplers, that's a problem right there, obviously.
mm-hmm. That's what actually took my first vehicle. I had a Saturn Outlook, in the first storm, first hurricane. You can see the water travel on the head where you see the front window, the liner of the front window. There's a gap between the window and the frame. Whereas you're supposed to be epoxy, a nice big ceiling, or it was a gap. There's enough water going in. You could see the water traveling down the center line of the front window down into the body of the vehicle, and you see water at the bottom. The minute my wife called, what could we do? They already, from the gate, they already said it was damaged, can't be fixed, no one. So they already put it into salvage. I was like, damn, didn't even come on. The engine was running good. The vehicle was wonderful. It was so comfortable. It had all the amenities on it. It was a great vehicle. And they totaled my vehicle off of the same water damage they could have did. Then I found out like 2 months later they sold that shit to someone upstate. I said, y'all bastards. took it from me. They totaled it, gave me an amount that I still wasn't too happy for. Then they took it immediately. 2 months later, it was sold because I had a little marker on the vehicle that identified. They never even took the damn marker out. I said, I knew that was our truck. 2 months later.
Wow.
I said, shit. But anyway, until we can go back to horses, I guess I'll be riding what I need to ride.
Yeah, tell me about it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, man. But that's what I'm going to do tomorrow. I've got to go to Philadelphia for a treatment for my son.
Okay.
And maybe I can stop by some of the pull places or the automobile places, specialists over there, see if I can find a quick fix. I'm thinking a larger city has more chances of seeing that type of vehicle and that type of issue. So maybe somebody got a quick fix or a quicker fix than I have down here. So we'll see, because I need to get my system. It's hard driving and not having music, or not even driving. Or driving and not being able to hear the damn turn signal. All audible sound is connected to the head unit. I'm like, what? Wow. Turn signals, hazard signs, anything internally is connected to that. So I'm like, damn. And let alone the system. I can't listen to it.
But the thing about it is, you know where the problem lies. So it's just a matter of fixing it now.
That's all it is. That's all it is. I did a lot of research to find out what it was. And I was able to locate what it is. It's just getting that part.
Have you went to YouTube to find out how to replace the amp?
Yeah.
If you decide to replace it?
Yeah. And it's not difficult. Like I said, it's attached. It's not no underline or nothing like that. The amp itself is a small device. It's about maybe 10 inches by 8 inches. It's a small little thin piece. It's not even like a big ass amp. It's a small amp. It's not even the Bose system amp. It's the house system amp that they have. It's a small little amp. It's got two connectors. It's not connected with many. It's just two connectors, one on the top, one on the side. Lift it, disconnect, reconnect the new wires, making sure the wires are dry, spray them, boom, they're done deal. It's just because where it's located, where the steering wheel is underneath the steering wheel on the bed, you have the cabin. I think it's the transmission cover where you see the hump, where the head unit and everything is. It's located right underneath there. It's attached to the pillar, but it's a little up into where you see the dashboard.
Okay.
So it's a little higher into it. So it's not like on the ground where you can kick it all the time. I think it's set up there so it can be protected or whatever the situation. So it's there. So it's right along the lumbar or the pillar itself. It's connected a little higher, but it's right there. But because where it's situated, it's in a nook. So you have to be able to twist a little bit using a device to be able to take it out. But once you're able to unscrew it and everything, disconnect it, boom, put it back up. It's whoever can fit their arms in that tight little space can do it in no time. It's just having a piece.
Wow.
It's just me taking a little more real estate than the average joker these days. It's a little harder for me.
Yeah, definitely, for sure.
But I'm gonna get it. I need to.
Okay.
But we're about to lock out another fine week of the show.
Another one down.
Yeah, another one bites the dust. I'm
A few days ago was February 2nd, 2022.
yeah, the infamous day of opening, right?
You know,
All,
all deuces.
all the deuces. They said that's God's time. Said the royal day, God's time. Everybody's blessing, full moon and everything, coming in and blessing everyone. Well,
I hear you.
that's what we need.
Well, like you always say, be safe, and travel carefully, and take it easy.
Got to, man. Got to.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
You
So,
know,
folks, we appreciate anybody who's jumped on the line, who's watched our show. It's very important for you guys to know that if it wasn't for you, there really is no us. Our discussion's always with one another, but it's always with your intent to be informed, to pass information. Please feel free to visit our website at www.thenoon.club, newnorm.club, and visit for archived information or information specific to certain needs. Of course, you have voter registration information. A lot of more important information about COVID and vaccines are available there. And other information regarding some of the hosts, some of the guests that we've had in the past, some of the entrepreneurs sharing with us their ventures. Please go visit them. In addition to also, we highlight every week that my man and my co-host, my brother Adrian, has a couple radio shows, internet-based radio shows. If you're interested in the type of music, I guarantee if you click on and follow to his shows, you'll enjoy the groove that he has available for you on the weekends, and continuously whenever you want to. I know he does it live on the weekends, but I think if I'm not mistaken, it's perpetual, so you can at least listen to it just about any time. So he got the grooves that makes you move and make you enjoy life a little bit more often, from old school hip hop and R&B to Caribbean sounds of soca, old reggae, and what have you. Maybe some jobless, all the different types of music that may be available. So go check it out and share some love on this side. Remember, folks, if there's any information that you may want to hear more of from us, just hit us a note right on the newnorm.club. You have a comment section that you can leave, or contact us through the different avenues that we have available through Facebook, of course. You have also the social networks. You have Instagram at the New Norm 2.0, Twitter the New Norm 2.0, New Norm here with Mo Delgado on Facebook as well. If you want to leave us some information, if there's something that you saw of interest that you think that we should explain a little bit more, please do so. Now, we give a lot of national information, regional information, because I think it's important for us to do, but we also cover some regional news. One thing I wanted to make sure I shared this week was the disposition that took place with a young man by the name of Irving Guzman. Was unfortunately found dead in the marshes out from Pleasantville. He had succumbed to some physical abuse, apparently for something that was, it's still a lot of allegations still on, but he ended up dead. He may have been murdered, and his body was tossed. The family and community members came out strong to support finding some justice for the young man. That type of activity, along with concerned ears coming from the city government in Pleasantville, moved quickly to shut the doors of this facility, and they have been closed since. Their alcohol license had been stripped from them. There's still information being gathered. The three individuals that were fingered as potentially having, if not fault, at least information of who actually killed Irving, they have been apprehended. But there's a lot of discussion and a lot of debate that's taking place because of it. One is the wonderment that seems to be having by the greater community of seeing the Latino/Hispanic community stand up so vibrantly and aggressively together to fight justice, to find some justice in the way they did. People are very enamored with how that is and very supportive of how it is. But the backlash behind this is that we seem to be even more divided. There's a lot of discussion about how they did this, they did that. When you say they and not us, then that excludes you from this whole universal family thing. Although their language may have been different than yours, we still share the universal love as human beings. We are all basically bleed the same. We need to have the same necessities. We live in the same space and area. So we are the same people, but we choose to be different. And I say this with the utmost compassion. We have to be more supportive of one another and never exclude ourselves from the hardships that anyone feels. At any time, something could happen to you and yours, and for you to feel that everyone else should come to your side, or you feel that everyone should hear your lament, your woes, is something that we all do. But it also requires you to be equally, voluntarily, as compassionate to others during their times. It requires us all to stand up for one another. It requires all of us to include each other in the hardships and the successes that we all seem to have. Don't let language be the barrier. Don't let religion be the barrier. Don't let the apparent differences in our complexion be the barrier from bringing us together. We're one universal family. We've been blessed with variations of color. We've been variations of different communication tools. Some of us have been blessed with other things. But ultimately, it's a blessing to be part of this universal family. Let's stop pushing each other away and let's bring it all together. Because any one body lost is a loss to all of us. So, in support of the family, Irving Guzman and the rest of the family that's going through hardship, our prayers continue to be with him and his family. And to the greater community, please start saying us and not they. A we here and there is extremely important, not a they. Let us all be in the process of healing and rebuilding our communities and our universal families. Because in the time where pronouns seem to be so important for people's personal identification, I think those pronouns have been pushed to the side, the we and us. So to my greater Latino community, let's keep on pushing and doing what we can to help this family. To my greater universal family, whether it's Caucasian, African American, Asian, or any other, you're also family members. You're also our brothers and sisters. Do not exclude yourself from this whole situation. Because when we find a solution for one, it becomes a solution for all. When we side with one another to help one another compassionately, we begin to grow stronger. And as a stronger family, we'll move forward. So I say this to all: watch out more, pay more attention to one another. Don't let the differences that everyone talks about keep you from accepting another loving family member into your family and your homes. It makes you a greater person, makes you a bigger person. So with that being said, here at the New Norm, we continue to try to be as best a conduit we can to everything positive. We try to highlight a lot of positivity in the community and talk about some of the negativity that we have to be concerned about, because we can all fall victim to some ill shit if we don't pay attention. So thank you again for spending a few minutes with us. If you're watching this at a later time and not watching live, thank you for clicking on. I hope that you can be inspired and gain some information. The New Norm is on once a week for 2 hours as we talk about different issues. We are proud of saying we bring you into the conversation because it's a vehicle to give you an opportunity to speak about the topics that you find interesting that we talk about. Or if you just want to shoot the shit and joke around about different things, whether if it's our haircuts, old school music, or our latest take on whatever food trend it is. We're average people that just know that it's important for us to be together and stay together during this hard time, the pandemic. So I'm thankful again, and we hope that you can come by next Friday as we venture off into more topics that's important. Adrian, look like you wanted to say a last thing. Did you want to say something?
No. You're doing a very good job. So, you know, I'm going to descend on that one.
Okay. All right. So thank you again. We're hoping that you can spend some time with us next week. And as we continue always in saying peace to you, remember always, stay positive.
Be positive and test negative, people. Enjoy the weekend and be blessed.
Absolutely.
Kick it. Put that old school down.